On my For You page, I keep seeing what I eat in a day as a fatty, and it's really bringing me back to a lot of the habits that I had that.
Hey bestie, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Basically, like the video because it helps with my algorithm. So in today's video, we're talking about expert women expose the habit that kept them fat. So I put the stitches together so that you watch. I'll be back shortly to share my true sense.
On my For You page, I keep seeing what I eat in a day as a fatty, and it's really bringing me back to a lot of the habits that I had that led me to be almost 300 pounds. In the same breath, I am very compassionate for my old self, and I don't want anyone to ever see me as one of those girls who lost weight and then became fat phobic. But I'm very self-aware and knew a lot of the things that I was doing was not good for me. That's why I had to change. First habit that I had was starting my day off with something extremely sugary, whether that be a Starbucks Frappuccino, a cake pop, a donut, a cheese Danish, pancakes with a bunch of syrup. I would start myself off on the wrong foot already and then wonder why I was craving sugar for the rest of the day. I was not starting off my day with any kind of protein, and a lot of times I was also skipping breakfast, which was another poor habit that I had. Another habit that I had that led to extreme weight gain was constantly drinking my calories. I was drinking sugary juices that had a ton of calories and sodas. These calories were empty calories. They were not keeping me full. They were not bringing me any nutritional value. It was simply just because I wanted something sweet and tasty. Last habit I will talk about, and let me know if you guys want a part 2 for this because I can talk about this all day, but was eating for pleasure. I came a long way to realize this about myself. I was in denial about it for myself. I was making all these excuses for why I was gaining weight, but to be honest, a lot of times I was eating for pleasure. I was eating just to eat. I honestly think that was one of the hardest things that I've ever admitted to myself. I think that was one of the hardest things that I came to realization with myself. But if I didn't realize that, God knows where I would have been right now with my health. So in no way am I saying that everyone who's overweight has it.
This video is about what I used to eat in a day when I thought I had normal eating habits, but I gained 100 pounds in less than a year. The last video I made on this completely blew up, and a lot of you guys hyper-focused on the fast food in it. And I promise the root of the problem was not just the fast food, and I'm going to show you why. So this would be a pretty typical breakfast for me. I'd have a bagel with a slathering of cream cheese, and then of course my morning coffee. I never measured my creamer. I guesstimate it was around 3 tablespoons. This breakfast alone has hardly any protein, lots of sugar, lots of carbs, and it's almost 700 calories. I had this every single morning for a very long time. Lunch is tricky because I used to work like minimum 12-hour shifts, but on a day that I was off or I was working from home and I just wanted something quick, I would eat an entire one of these bags. They are delicious, don't get me wrong, but the serving size for one of these is 1 cup. The entire bag is 3.5 cups. So I would eat 3 times the serving size for a whopping 1,000 plus calories. I used to say I'm not a big snacker, which now I know is not true. I was just eating ginormous meals. So then of course for dinner, I'd want to have something, healthy and full of protein. So I would make salmon and this sticky rice that you just pop in the microwave. But I used to drench my salmon in butter because that's the best way to make it. And then I wouldn't have 1 serving of this rice. I would split the bag with my husband. So that was like a serving and a half. And then I gave myself the benefit of the doubt because I would usually serve this with broccoli. So I did throw some broccoli in there. But this is almost 900 calories. But we're not done there because we need to eat dessert. I always got a sweet tooth at the end of the night, so strawberries are my favorite fruit. I can put those down. So that's probably something I would have, while I'm cleaning the house. But then we can't forget the sweet treat. And a serving size of brownies is like a 2-inch square, I think. And I wasn't eating no 2-inch square. Minimum 6 inches of brownie. For 570 calories, of course. So if you missed it in the beginning, that was 3,353 calories at minimum, because this is all guesstimation. And I was not exercising. If I wasn't at work, I wasn't walking. And yeah, now it makes sense why I gained so much weight.
These are 5 habits that are keeping you fat. I know this because I did all of these things whenever I was 25 pounds heavier. Number 1 is eating according to the clock as opposed to when you're actually hungry. Because every time you eat, when you're not hungry, you are giving your body calories that it's not asking for. This creates a snowball effect throughout the entire day. Because you're eating when you're hungry and you're eating when you're not hungry. And so then you're consuming way more calories than you actually need, and that makes it really difficult to be in a calorie deficit. Number 2 is forcing yourself to finish your plate or be a part of the clean plate club. If you haven't noticed by now, hunger fullness cues are kind of my bread and butter. So if you get full throughout a meal, that's your body's way of telling you, hey, I'm good now, and you need to respect that. At the point when you get full, no matter what's left on your plate, no matter how big or small, put it in a Tupperware, put it in the fridge, save it for later. That will be a really great addition to a meal or a snack for you to have later on. Next is meal prepping things that you don't actually really like that much. I like to say prep for the person that you actually are as opposed to some idealized version of yourself that you'd like to be at lunch. Because if you don't like what you prepped, then best case scenario, you're just wasting money. But worst case scenario is you eat that meal, consume all those calories, and then consume all the calories that you had to consume in order to get satisfied because you're still thinking about food since you didn't like your meal. Number 4 is setting an arbitrary threshold for what constitutes like a good enough workout. Because if you're saying like, I have to go for this many miles or this many steps or this many minutes or like be this amount of sweaty in order for it to be good enough, then you're setting up a situation where it's gonna be hard to be consistent with exercise. When you don't have the time or the energy to reach those arbitrary goals, then you're just gonna skip that workout. And then that's a time where you could have been active. So if you keep your goals low, push yourself when you can, scale back when you need to, then you're always gonna find a time to be active regardless of what's going on. Number 5 is being super afraid of carbs, always saying that's too many carbs, and then having really low carb meals, but then having crazy carb cravings and always making up for it with your super high carb snacks. I would so much rather you just give yourself high quality, high fiber carbs at each of your meals at regular intervals throughout the day, because without putting them in your meals and then having crazy cravings for carbs, the carbs that you're gonna be eating then, you're missing out on nutrients. You're never gonna have a high quality carb. So just get it right the first time and put a solid carb source in your meals. There's no reason to be afraid of them. They're not going to make you fat.
Things that kept me fat, part 2. I went from this to this. Wearing loose clothing 24/7. I would always wear leggings or sweatpants or stretchy jeans. When you're always wearing loose clothing, there's a couple things you don't realize. A is you don't realize how much you're eating, because if you're getting bloated, if your stomach's getting bigger, you don't feel it in your pants. And B, as you're putting on weight, those leggings and sweatpants, they can stretch, and they can stretch 10, 20, 30 pounds, and you will not feel it. Next is drinking your calories, even smoothies. These aren't very filling and they spike your blood sugar quickly. Telling yourself you're gonna start tomorrow and then eating everything in your kitchen, I am guilty of this. Stop doing it. When you decide you want to be healthy, start the minute you think of it. Start right now. You want to prevent that all or nothing mindset. Another big one was using food as a reward. Anytime I did something good, I'd be like, oh my goodness, we should go get a sweet treat. This can turn food into an emotional crutch, so anytime something good happens, your mind instantly is like food because there's a pattern. Every time something good happens, you need to have good food. Same thing goes for the opposite. If you always turn to food when you're sad, this will create a pattern in your brain. So anytime you feel happy, sad, upset, stressed, your brain instantly turns to food even if you're not hungry.
These are the 3 main habits that were keeping me fat for like 8 years. I had no idea that I was doing all the wrong things. For some reason, I was getting so frustrated because I thought all the things I was doing were gonna get me skinny, but they literally kept me fat. And I essentially just came to the conclusion that I was never gonna be thin. So here are the 3 main things that were keeping me fat. Number 1, I was keeping myself full consistently throughout the entire day. There was not a single second where I let myself get hungry. Essentially, I believed that as long as I was eating the right things, that I was gonna get skinny, because that's what I was hearing online. So that takes me into point number 2. I was eating clean, but I was eating massive portion sizes. Like I would have these giant salads with homemade dressing and just douse it in dressing. And these big bowls of oatmeal with like 5 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is whack. Then habit number 3, when I was my biggest, I was lifting heavy 5 to 6 days a week. I thought that the harder that I worked in the gym, the more calories I would burn, so then I would just get skinnier, but this kept me big. Basically, this would just make my appetite go insane. Anyway, if you are curious about habits that will help you to get skinny, I make videos about that literally all the time. But these are the 3 main things that were keeping me fat and keeping me stuck.
Here are 10 things you're doing on a regular basis that are making you gain weight. If you feel like your eating habits are not that bad but the weight won't budge, this video is going to explain why. So definitely save this so you can reference it when you catch yourself doing one of these things. And share this with someone who you think might be able to relate. Number 1, taking bites of your meal before sitting down to eat. There's a difference between taste testing and eating additional food. If you're eating a couple spoonfuls straight out of the pan and then sitting down to eat the meal, you're eating extra calories that could be the difference between eating in a deficit and at maintenance. Number 2, shopping without a grocery list. We are visual creatures. If you go into the grocery store blind, you will pick up extra things that you did not plan to get. Go in with a list, get what you need, nothing more, nothing less. It still can include fun things like cookies, ice cream, chips. You just want to be intentional and mindful about it instead of just grabbing random snacks off the shelf. Number 3, not plating your food. If you go buy a bowl from Chipotle, for example, I guarantee that bowl has a lot more calories than you realize. I recommend dishing it out into an actual plate or bowl that you have at home. This will help you better control your portions rather than eating straight out of the Chipotle container because you will eat all of it just because it's in front of you. Number 4, taking bites of other people's food. I used to do this all the time. Looking back, it makes so much sense. I would literally go out to eat and order like grilled chicken and broccoli or a salad, and then I would pick at other people's plates, either leftover fries, fried chicken, all this stuff. And I wasn't getting results. And I was like, I'm eating so clean, I don't understand why. It was because I was eating everyone's leftover food to the point where I was eating way more calories than I realized. You are better off ordering what you actually want and portioning it accordingly so that you don't feel deprived or restricted. Next up is not getting enough sleep. Not only does a lack of sleep increase your stress levels, but the longer you stay up, the more you want extra food, even if you're not necessarily hungry. Just create a set bedtime for yourself and try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Number 6, standing up or walking while eating. If you're wondering why you feel hungry 30 minutes to an hour after eating, this could be why. Your body digests and processes food way better when you're sitting down and focusing on your meal. Going off of that, number 7 is eating too quickly. This used to be my big problem too. I would eat so fast, so I wouldn't even realize and process the fact that I was full, so I would keep eating, and then the full just would catch up with me later, and then I'd have the itis. When you slow down, you allow your body and your mind to process the fact that you ate to keep you full for a longer period of time. Number 8, social eating. Now, eating out and eating with friends and family is fine, but sometimes I find people will eat the entire time they're out at the event. It's like if I'm talking to someone, I have something that I'm eating, I have something that I'm drinking. You want to practice being present and socializing without necessarily having to have something you're eating at the same time. Number 9, not having healthy snacks on hand. Because when you're out and you get hungry, you are not going to make the best choices. Having healthy snacks on hand just helps you be prepared when you're in a situation where you can't eat for a longer period of time. Number 10, which I see so many women struggle with, is eating clean during the weekdays and not really keeping track of things and kind of winging it on the weekends. If you're doing this and you can't seem to lose weight, I guarantee you're eating a lot of more calories than you think on the weekends. And a lot of this is likely because you feel restricted during the weekdays, so you just go crazy on the weekends. I'm all about balance, so if you like pizza, have a homemade pizza for dinner on the weekdays. Have 1 cookie or 1 scoop of ice cream per night for dessert. This will help you not go so crazy on the weekends to have more of that balance. So if you found this helpful, do me a favor and give me a follow. And if you want the personalized guidance and support to lose weight and keep it off in a way where all foods fit and change your self-sabotaging and emotional eating behaviors, then you can learn all about how we help our clients inside our coaching program up at the link.
Here are some fundamental skinny habits that I have lost as soon as I started college that I'm trying to regain right now. Number 1, I was not paying attention while I was eating. I always was going on TikTok. I was always going watching some TV, doing literally anything, even if it's like schoolwork. I was doing that and I wasn't fully focused on my meal. By the time I finished, I didn't even know I finished the meal. The second thing is I wasn't eating when I was hungry and I wasn't stopping when I was 80% full. So something that I would start to do when I started college, I would eat more, I would get hungry, right? But then I would eat more than I actually needed because I was like, oh, what if I get hungry again later? When really I could have just packed something, you know what I mean? I was doing too much, and then I would feel gross and I feel nasty and then I feel guilty. So it's kind of don't do more than you need to do, Trust yourself, trust your body. If you feel hungry, just eat again. The third thing I would say is always saying yes to food. For example, there's pizza at every single club event. Does that mean you need to eat the pizza at every club event if you don't feel like it? No, you don't need to. So just because the food is right there, just because you have free food, free snacks sitting up literally everywhere on college campus, it doesn't mean you need to take.
Bonus one, but not snacking. Literally, if I'm hungry, I need to actually eat a proper meal, not just snack and then get myself even more hungry because the snack didn't satisfy me.
When I make videos about what I used to eat when I was obese, and people in my comments are like, how were you eating like this and you don't understand what was making you fat? Girl, half the girls out here have guys that literally treat them like absolute garbage, and they're like, I don't know, I think he likes me. We're all delusional in our own ways. And we want to believe that what we're doing is the best for us. And we want to believe that like we want is what's happening, if you know what I mean. Like I wanted to believe, so I did believe that I just had this crazy metabolism, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can eat as much fast food as I want without gaining weight because I'm not getting on the scale, so I'm not gaining weight. That was a toxic trait of mine. I would literally be like, oh yeah, I'm not getting on the scale, so it doesn't count. I literally thought that I was getting away with it. And I literally thought that like me buying new clothes that were bigger, I wasn't accepting that I was actually getting fatter. I was like, I want the oversized look. But it was never an oversized look. And I'm like, dang, like clothing sizes are like running small. It was never about me. Like I always blamed it on something else. And people do the same thing with guys. Like, oh, he's probably busy. Oh, he just like isn't a texter. Like we all make excuses until we randomly wake up.
3 habits that are causing you to store belly fat. My name is Amy Kandeski. I'm a registered nurse and certified hormone specialist, and I help women get to the root cause of their symptoms so they can achieve optimal health and thrive. So belly fat is very, very common amongst especially midlife women, and that is due to many things, but some hormonal shifts that can happen. And as you start losing estrogen and progesterone, your body becomes more sensitive to stress, which then increases cortisol, which is our fat storing hormone. We have 4 times the receptors for cortisol in our belly than anywhere else in our body. And then we also become more insulin resistant as estrogen declines. So belly fat really is a combination of insulin resistance and cortisol. And so some things that are actually making your belly fat worse are 1, under eating and skipping meals, because that is a big stress on the body when you're not eating enough. And so your metabolism slows down and you tend to hold on to belly fat due to increased levels of cortisol. So we want to make sure we're eating enough food, and I do show women how to do this on a one-on-one. Next is chasing cardio instead of strength training. A lot of you are doing high intensity cardio, HIIT training, spin, Orange Theory, running. Those all put a lot of stress on an already stressed out body. And it can definitely increase inflammation and stress hormones in the body and make belly fat worse. I have a lot of women that say, they train for half marathons or marathons and they actually gain belly fat. And that is because of the stress that it's putting on the body. So I recommend strength training. Strength training builds muscle if you're doing it correctly, which means, you're doing, let's say, upper body on a Monday, lower body on a Wednesday, you're doing full body on a Friday, and then you're repeating those same 3 days for the next 6 weeks. And you're trying to increase your weight each time. And that is called progressive overload. And that is what stimulates your muscle to build strength, to put on more muscle. And that is then going to help with insulin sensitivity. It's going to help with fat loss. You're going to burn more calories at rest. And if you do want to do cardio, I recommend zone 2. I recommend, just walking, because you're going to burn calories, but it's not going to stress out your nervous system. And then lastly is nutrient deficiencies or adrenal dysfunction. That's a big one. So nutrient deficiencies, basically what causes that is stress. Stress causes nutrient deficiencies. And when you are deficient in certain minerals like magnesium, sodium, potassium, then your nervous system, it's more revved up. It puts a lot of stress on your nervous system, and so metabolism starts to slow down. So this is something that I test with the hair mineral test. We look and see what stage of adrenal dysfunction you are in. There's 3 different stages: fight or flight. Stage 2 is now you're starting to get fatigued. You have, lower libido. You are wired and tired. You're having midday crashes. And then stage 3 is just exhaustion. Your body's definitely not prioritizing burning fat. It's barely surviving. You wake up tired. You can barely do the normal daily tasks in your day. That's stage 3 adrenal dysfunction. And then insulin resistance can happen also from high levels of cortisol. And I see it all the time with my women. And it's really the main reason why they're not losing weight with standard diet and exercise. Like being in a caloric deficit and exercising, they're not losing weight. They're still not, they can take their calories down to 1200. They're still not losing weight because insulin is elevated, cortisol is elevated. Those are our two fat storing hormones. So cortisol can cause insulin resistance. And then insulin resistance makes cortisol worse because when blood sugar drops, cortisol spikes. And when you have insulin resistance, you can't get glucose inside the cells to do its job. And so it stays elevated in your bloodstream, and then our liver secretes insulin to take glucose, put it inside the cell. But eventually your signal gets desensitized, so your body has to make more and more and more insulin to do the same job. And so eventually, then now you have all this glucose and all this insulin, and blood sugar crashes. And then cortisol has to come in and rise to compensate for the blood sugar crash. So it's really just a domino effect of just not having balanced blood sugar. So we have to address the insulin resistance. We have to address the stress when it comes to belly fat. Those are our two main hormones that are preventing you from losing the belly fat, and that is what I do. So if you are interested in doing that, book a free call with me on my website, www.theoptimalhealthsolution.com. I'd love to help you.
That's a video, besties. I'm just here just to add on what I think about today's video. Expert women expose the habits that kept them fat. Have you ever wondered why so many people stay stuck in the same body years after year, even when they say they want to lose weight? So I just want to talk about that. So one of the biggest things they all said was denial. Many women shared they used to lie to themselves, convincing themselves that they did not eat that much, or their slow metabolism was the problem. They refused to be honest about how much they were eating, how much sugar was sneaking into their coffee, or how many small snacks were actually meals once they started tracking everything. The truth hit harder. It wasn't metabolism, it was habit. Basically, another habit that kept them stuck was emotional eating. Food became comfort, reward, and escape, all in one. Whether it was stress, boredom, or sadness, the answer was always food. Many said they eat not because they were hungry, but because it was the easiest way to cope. The real change came when they start finding new outlets for their emotions, like journaling, walking, or talking to a friend instead of reaching for food. So another thing that they talked about best is late night snacking was another major one. Many women didn't realize how much damage those just one more bite moments were doing. Eating late, especially out of boredom or while scrolling through social media, became a pattern. Once they cut out eating after a certain hour and created the nighttime routine that didn't involve food, the difference was huge. They also admitted to constantly eating out. Fast food, takeaway, restaurant portions, all loaded with calories and hidden oils. Cooking at home felt like a chore, but once they learned how to make healthy meals, they actually liked it. Everything changed. Many realized that eating out wasn't just expensive, it was keeping them stuck in a body they did not like. Another thing that came up again and again was making excuses. I don't have time, I'm too tired, I'll start on Monday. Those phrases sound small, but they built a mindset that kept you trapped. The expert women finally transformed, said the real shift happened when they stopped waiting for motivation and just looked for action, even when they didn't feel like it. Drinking calories was another silent weight gain trap. Soda, fruit juice, sweetened coffee, they add up faster than you think. Once women say she used to drink 2 cans of soda a day without realizing that was over 300 extra calories daily. When she switched to water and unsweet drinks, she started losing weight without even changing anything. Skipping meals was another mistake that kept them fat. It sounds like a good idea, not eating less, but it backfires. Skipping breakfast or lunch only leads to overeating later in the day. The body goes into survival mode and cravings go through the roof. Once they started eating balanced meals and kept their blood sugar stable, the constant hunger and basic goals finally stopped. They also talked about how they used to hate exercise. For many, the gym felt intimidating, so they did nothing instead. But once they found out a workout they enjoyed, Whether it was dancing, walking, or home workouts, they started to see results. They stopped viewing movement as punishment and started seeing it as self-care. That mentorship made all the difference. Another habit that kept them stuck was hanging out with people who normalize bad habits. When your friends always want to go out for pizza or say just one slice won't hurt, it's easy to stay stuck. Many women say they had to distance themselves from certain socials, circles, or set new boundaries around food. They learned that not everyone wants to see you change, and that's okay. Self sabotage was once big one. Some women admitted they didn't believe they could really lose the weight. So they gave up after one sleep up. They were stuck in all or nothing mindset. If they made or messed up one meal, they threw the whole day always. Once they learned the progress is not about perfection, just consistency, they finally broke free from the circle. Comparison also played a huge role. Many say they scroll through Instagram, looking at fitness influencers and feel discouraged instead of motivated. They compared their day one to someone else year five and gave up too soon. The women who succeeded learned to focus on their own lane, one day, one meal, and one workout at a time. Another common trap was consistently dieting. Many of them spend years jumping from one trend to another. Okay, detox tea, fasting, low carb, but never learned real sustainable habits. The truth is not it's not about the diet, it's about consistency. Once they stopped dieting and started building healthy habits, they could maintain. The weight came off naturally. They also admitted to being addicted to comfort. Changes feel uncomfortable. And many women say they stayed fat because they did not want to feel that discomfort.